think you're mixing up several subjects at once. You still haven't made a convincing case that GMOs are necessarily harmful to human beings.
Where's the proof that it isn't harmful? That's what I'd like to see.
Well, but why eliminate golden rice, which could wipe out blindness in the third world on a theory that GMOs are dangerous? Don't you think that's the tragic mistake? That would be a tragic mistake to err on that side?
I have no knowledge of golden rice. I've never heard of it before, to be honest with you.
All right, well, that's fair enough. But golden rice is a miracle grain that was developed 15 years ago, and it's enhanced. It's a grain enhanced with vitamin A producing beta carotene. And 500,000 children a year lose their sight because of vitamin A deficiency. I've known that ever since I worked in the third world. And I used to wonder, why can't we just give them vitamin A? It would be a miracle. Well, this man, I think he's a Russian scientist, Ingo Potrikis, I don't know what his ethnicity is, nor does it matter. But doesn't it tell you something that Patrick Moore, one of the founders of Greenpeace in the 1970s, would quit Greenpeace and work with the man who invented golden rice and calling for putting Greenpeace on trial for crimes against humanity? Doesn't that tell us something?
It tells you something about that particular grain, but I believe that what they're trying to accomplish here with the golden rice is something that's, very, very good and beneficial. Now, what they're accomplishing with, the glyphosate-resistant stuff, to me, from my perspective, it's questionable. To me, it's nothing more than...
All right, I would say questionable is a fair statement, but I would say we have people starving to death and going blind, and we don't have the time to sit in our laboratories and wonder about whether we should let them go blind or not. And I would say we have to stop listening to these activist polemicists. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN. You want me to tell you how to get along with construction workers who you don't know? You want to make someone smile and turn them into your friend? Someone who speaks Spanish? When you walk by, you ever see a strange guy, you look at him and he looks at you, you don't know what to say to each other, especially if they're from another country? Just look at the guy and say, Los Caminos de la Vida. I can guarantee you'll make a friend. You don't need to know any more, because he knows what the paths of life are all about. He's walking on that path of life, and he's breaking his back here in America trying to make a buck. Don't ever forget that. Oh, yeah, illegal aliens and all that. We know the problem. We know the problem, but we're not talking about the hardworking guys, are we? We're talking about the folks who are here doing nothing but sucking the system dry, and the 1/3 of all prisoners who should be deported. We're not talking about the guys breaking their back on the construction site. So go up to him and say, Los Caminos de la Vida. He'll know what you mean. That's all you got to say. It's like a universal statement. We'll talk about GMOs.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Blue Monday, how I hate Blue Monday. Got to work like a slave all day.
La Vida, it's so beautiful. You know, there's a word in Spanish called duende that I learned 40 years ago, because I grew up listening to Spanish music. I know you've got me typecast, but I grew up on Cuban, Puerto Rican, Panamanian music in New York. And the thing is, I learned Spanish in school for 7 years. And I read Spanish literature. I had to read all the Spanish literature. I never really adapted that well to it. I like French and French language better. But in the Spanish language, there is a word called duende, which is loosely translated as meaning soul. And some songs have that magic called soul. Some music has it, some art has it, some poetry has it, some talk show hosts have it, and some don't. You can't buy Duende, you can't learn Duende. And this song has Duende, and when I heard it on the radio Friday night driving to a restaurant, I'm going to get back to GMOs and the fake black at the NAACP, believe me. But this is an important story for me because it's a universal story about a single mother who is dying, and her hardworking son, looks at her, and his heart's ripped out. Because when he was a boy, he thought life was easy and different. And he looked at his mother, and he just can't believe how hard life is. It's such a beautiful song. And what I'm saying to you is we can't let our desire to save America, and we can't let our desire to maintain borders, language, and culture poison us to all of the positive things that are brought in by some immigrants and some immigrant groups. We can't let that happen. We can't let the fanatical Muslims make us hate everyone else. I won't mince words. Let's make it real simple for you. Every time there's another arrest by the FBI, it doesn't seem to be someone from Mexico, by the way. Even though 30% of all criminals include many Mexicans, don't say all Mexicans come here to rip the system off. It's just not true. And that's the poison that's going around. I'm trying to end the poison. I'm trying to make you understand you can have it. Yeah, you can have it both ways. Yes, you can have it both ways. If only you will use some, what shall I say, discernment? That's the word I'm looking for, discernment. And that's why I'm playing the song, because the song touched me all over again. I've never heard the song. The version I played for you is by La Tropa Velanata. I don't know. There's many versions of Los Caminos de la Vida, the road of life, the path of life, the paths of life, really. And it's about the paths of life and not what I used to hope. They're not what I used to believe. They're not what I used to imagine. They're hard to travel. They're hard to walk. And I can't find the way out. It's almost existential. It's amazing, the lyrics of it. But the last point of this is the singer says, Yo pensaba que la vida era distinta. Pardon my pronunciation. I used to think that life was different cuando era chiquiti, when I was a little boy. To yo creía. I used to believe that things were easy. Like yesterday, that my married mother, It's amazing, the song. And look what the culture has brought here in so many positive ways. And you can't, again, stereotype and categorize an entire culture or race in a negative way just because we're being flooded with so many haters from another culture and another religion. Period. End of story. Not all cultures are the same. Some bring things and some don't. Look at the Italian people. I mean, if you want to get focused on the Italian people, you say, oh, mafia. Well, that is so embarrassing to Italian people. What percentage of the Italian people were ever members of the mafia? A very tiny, tiny percentage. Tiny, tiny percentage. And look what the Italian culture has brought to society. Whether it be, forget the commonplace, common man says Italian food. What about opera, Italian opera? And the music of Italy and such. And that's why people were offended by the series The Sopranos, which implied that everyone was in the mafia. So you have to look at the positive of cultures. Virtually every part of our melting pot has brought something positive to the society until rather recently, when Obama has chosen to flood America with immigrants who have nothing to give us and everything to take. You get it? So don't fall for it. Don't let the left turn you against all immigrants, because what they're trying to do is turn you into the image of a racist, which brings us to the second topic, which I never got to, which I think is very important, which is the issue of the fake black person at the NAACP in Spokane. This is an amazing story. An amazing story that a woman could get away with this for so many years. And finally she quits today. Discovered she lied about her race for years, including changing her appearance to appear more ethnic. Her parents came forward saying she has routinely identified herself as a black woman when she is biologically white. And so this incident has sparked a national dialogue over race and ethnicity and self-identity. And I've got to read for you her resignation letter, which is such a crock of garbage. But it really brings to question the whole issue of racial politics, using race as a weapon, the Black Caucus, the NAACP. Isn't it time for them to consider moving on? After all, don't we have a black president? Don't we have a black attorney general 2 in a row now? Don't many members of our government, aren't they folks of African American heritage? Why keep pushing this revolutionary rhetoric about racial and social justice, police brutality, pro-justice political representation, empowering marginalized voices? Why keep pushing it? Why? Because the white people are pushovers. Because basically the white people are nice people. They're polite people. They're good people. And they're busy making a living and making society a better place for themselves and their family. In order to engage in this, they don't have the time. But there are probably thousands of Rachel Dolezals out there who are not faking their race, but faking their rhetoric. Al Sharpton is a classic race hustler. Jesse Jackson has made a fortune as a race hustler his whole life, in my opinion. They're not alone, though. There's an entire industry of race hustlers out there who keep pushing the big lie, even though we have a black president, a black attorney general, etc. And so you have to look at this. It's a very big story. And if you read her resignation letter, your hair will stand up. I have it on michaelsavage.com. It's just amazing how she concludes. She says the movement is larger than a movement in time or a single person's story. She said, I hope that everyone offers their robust support of the Journey for Justice campaign that the NAACP launches today. It is with complete allegiance to the cause of racial and social justice and the NAACP that I step aside from the presidency and pass the baton to my vice president, Naima Quarles Burnley. And she goes on to say, I will never stop fighting for human rights. And she says it's about justice. She says this is not me quitting. This is a continuum. Big word, isn't it? It's about moving the cause of human rights and the Black Liberation Movement. Oh, really? The Black Liberation Movement? Does anyone know what that is? Do you know what the Black Liberation Movement is? Along the continuum from resistance to chattel slavery, to to defiance of Jim Crow, to the building of Black Wall Street, here we go, to the civil rights and Black Power movement, to the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement, remember where that one came from? And into a future of self-determination empowerment. With much love and a commitment to always fight for what is right and good in this world, Rachel Dolezal. I'd like to know why the FBI has not arrested her and charged her with several crimes, because she has committed several crimes, by the way. Several crimes indeed. Now, what I'm about to play for you will have you not, on one hand, you're going to laugh. On the other hand, you're going to realize that MSNBC is perhaps the most dangerous political organization in the United States of America. It is a mouthpiece for all of these revolutionary organizations. It is a mouthpiece for Obama, a mouthpiece for Sharpton. He's on it, by the way. And why Microsoft will be affiliated with such a vile organization as MSNBC is really not questionable at all. You see, if Microsoft paid its fair share of taxes, I would trust anything that Bill Gates says. If Microsoft paid its fair share of taxes and didn't use every trick known to mankind to avoid paying its fair share of taxes, maybe I wouldn't understand why they fund MSNBC. It's to make sure that you are thrown off base every day with arguments about race, homosexuality, and such, and you don't pay attention to the fact that they and other major corporations are dodging taxes through the Irish and other games that they play. I only hope that the European Union finally gets Google on their tax dodge in Ireland. If you ever saw what Google earns in Europe and what they actually pay in taxes, you would understand why the European tax collectors are onto them. And the same is true, by the way, for many other corporations who fund some of these social justice organizations, which are made for one reason only, which are funded for one reason only, which is to continue to pressure us into thinking about black rights, Hispanic rights, Asian rights, gay rights, animal rights, everything except the tax dodge that they're funding these organizations to focus us on something else. So let me play for you a host on the show on MSNBC. I never heard of her. You're not going to believe this in clip 10.
But is it possible that she might actually be black? And the best way that I know how to describe this, and I want to be very careful here, because I don't want to say that it is equivalent to the transgender experience, but there is a useful language in trans and cis, which is just to say some of us are born cisgendered, some of us are born transgendered, but there is actually a different category of blackness that is about the achievement of blackness despite one's parents. parentage. Is that
Can you believe
possible?
this? Can you believe the mouth on this woman?